All right, now you've watched the video in Canvas. So now you're going to watch this video while you take some notes over powers and exponents. Okay, so let's just kind of review. Powers and exponents have to do with a product of repeated factors. And you guys, the word product right here, that means to multiply. So if you want to write multiply, that's what product means, and repeated factors. So what this is basically repeated multiplication. And repeated multiplication can be expressed as a power. So fill in the blank here as power. This entire thing is called the power. And the power consists of a base with an exponent. This base right here is the common factor. It's the thing that is multiplied repeatedly. It is what we are multiplying repeatedly. So out here, right, this is multiplied repeatedly. And then the exponent right here, this little number, the small number, this is the exponent. This tells us how many times to multiply the base. Okay? The exponent tells how many times the base is used as a factor. It tells how many times to multiply. So we can put here, tells, sorry about that bad S, tells how many times to multiply. Well, that was an oops. Okay. How many times to multiply? All right, so that's how that describes power. So if I talk about a power, I'm talking about the entire thing. If I'm talking about a base, I'm talking about this part. And if I'm talking about an exponent, I'm talking about that part. So here's some examples of reading and writing powers. Okay, first of all, this is the power. These right here are the powers because we have the base and the exponent together. And the way you read this first one, let's start here. The way you read this first one is 7 to the first power. The expanded form is just 7, and the standard form is also just 7, because that 1 tells us to multiply that 7 to itself one time. Well, there's one 7. This is our repeated multiplication. We are multiplying it once, so it's just 7. Okay? Every single number that you see, every single number has an understood exponent of 1. We just don't need to write it. We don't need to write everything out. If we wanted to write 7 plus 2, we wouldn't need to write 7 to the first plus 2 to the first. We just know that it's 7 plus 2. We don't need the exponents there. Okay? But that's called 7 to the first power. This one right here, this power, is read 5 to the second power, or 5 squared, because a square has 2 sides, and if the sides are all 5, 5 times 5 gives us the area, or the area of the square. So 5 squared, or 5 to the second power. The expanded form is 5 times 5, and you guys please use a dot and not an X. 5 times 5 equals 25. So here's our expanded form, and here's the standard form, and this is the power form, or the exponent form. Okay? The next one, 1/2 to the third power, or we could call it 1/2 cubed. And the reason that is because if we take a cube, like a little sugar cube, that's 1/2 an inch big. It's got 3 dimensions, and each dimension is 1/2 inch. The length is 1/2 inch, the width is 1/2 inch, and the height is 1/2 inch. So to multiply those together, we would do 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2. That's the expanded form. And that would also give us the volume of a cube, hence the term 1/2 cubed. It's 3-dimensional shapes. This is like 3 dimensions. Okay, so to multiply fractions, just to show you, if it's 1/2 cubed, it's 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2. To remind us, multiplying fractions is the easiest one of all. We multiply straight across. 1 times 1 times 1 is just 1. 2 times 2 is 4, and then 4 times 2 is 8. So 1/2 cubed equals 1/8. So here's our exponent form, our expanded form, and then our standard form. And then lastly, let's take it to a variable because it does apply to variables as well. Okay, n to the 4th power. That's how this is written. N is my base. My exponent is 4, telling me here to do 4 n's multiplied together. So n times n times n times n. I cannot do a standard form because I don't know what the number n is. So I can't actually get an answer. This is as much as I can do. I can do the exponent form and I can do the expanded form. And that's as far as I can go. So I'm going to practice some of these with you. And then I want you to complete the rest and then compare with your neighbor either next to you or across from you until all the group has compared. So I'm going to do number 1 for you. Okay, -5 times -5 times -5 times -5. So what is the number that is being multiplied repeatedly? Well, that would be -5. So I'm going to leave it in parentheses because it needs to be in parentheses. Since this is in parentheses, this is in parentheses. So the number that's being repeatedly multiplied is my base. Okay, how many times am I multiplying it? Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, or how, I should maybe say it this way. How many -5s am I multiplying together? And I'm multiplying 4 of them, so that becomes my exponent. Okay, now let's jump down here and let's look at this one. Okay, so not only are we going to evaluate it, or in other words, get it in standard form, we're going to write it in expanded first so that we can do this. So -9 to the 4th power, what that means is -9 times -9 times -9 times -9. So in your calculator, do that. Do -9 times -9 times -9 times -9. You should end up with a positive number. And you should end up with a positive 6,561. Notice how large that number gets very quickly when we start multiplying versus when we just add them together. Okay, you try 2 and 3, and then you also try 5 and 6. And use these examples up here to help you, and you can use your calculators.